4 feet of wing structure gone. Hydraulic fluid streaming into the slipstream. A lone P-51 Mustang banking hard over the German heartland. One side shorter than the other, aluminum skin peeled back like torn paper. The pilot grips the stick with both hands, fighting a roll that wants to spin him into the ground. German radio chatter erupts across the frequency. American pilots listen in stunned silence. The Mustang should be tumbling. It should be a fireball. Instead, it levels out, wobbles, and turns toward 4 closing FW-190s. What happens next will be studied by aeronautical engineers for the next 80 years. Nuremberg, March 17, 1945. The sky over Bavaria is not clean. It carries the smell of burning oil and cordite. At 18,000 feet, the cold cuts through flight suits and fogs the inside of canopies. Below, the industrial sprawl of Nuremberg smolders from the morning's bombing run. Flak bursts dot the sky in black puffs, each one a cloud of shrapnel expanding at supersonic speed. Radio. Discipline has collapsed into overlapping voices, calling out fighters, calling for help, calling coordinates that no longer matter. This is the endgame of the European air war. The Luftwaffe is dying, but it is not dead. German pilots fly with the desperation of men who know the war is lost, but refuse to stop fighting. They ram bombers. They dive through their own flak. They press attacks until their ammunition runs dry, then try to ram again. American fighter doctrine is clear in response. Protect the bombers, engage when advantageous, disengage when damaged, return to base, survive. The math is brutal and simple. A damaged fighter cannot protect anyone. A dead pilot helps no one. If your aircraft takes critical damage, you bail out. You do not attempt heroics. You do not push the envelope. You follow procedure, pull the canopy release, release, and trust the parachute. The doctrine is written in the blood of pilots who tried otherwise. Into this sky climbs a formation of P-51 Mustangs, their polished aluminum skins reflecting the late winter sun. They are escorting the bomber stream home, weaving back and forth above the heavier aircraft, scanning for threats. The Mustangs are elegant machines, all speed and range, designed to go deep into Germany and come home. They carry 650 caliber machine guns and enough fuel to fly for 6 hours. They are faster than anything the Luftwaffe fields, more maneuverable than most, and flown by pilots who have seen every trick the enemy knows. But elegance does not stop an 88mm flak shell. Physics does not care about aerodynamic beauty. When metal meets explosive force, structure fails. And when structure fails at 18,000 feet, men die. Except sometimes they don't. Sometimes a pilot with a slide rule in his flight bag and a degree in mechanical engineering does something doctrine says is impossible. Sometimes the radios on both sides go silent as they watch a crippled aircraft do what the manuals say cannot be done. And sometimes 4 enemy fighters learn too late that a damaged opponent is not the same as a helpless one. March 1945. The war in Europe has 8 weeks left, but no one knows that yet. The Luftwaffe is hemorrhaging pilots and fuel, but it still has teeth. Jet fighters scream through bomber formations at speeds no propeller aircraft can match. Me-163 rocket planes climb to impossible altitudes and dive like meteors. Desperate tactics multiply, ramming attacks, suicidal head-on passes, pilots with 10 hours of training thrown into combat against Americans with 300. The kill ratios are lopsided, but the dying continues on both sides. American fighter doctrine has evolved through 3 years of daylight bombing. The lessons are written in twisted aluminum across the European countryside. Fighters fly in pairs, never alone. They maintain altitude advantage whenever possible. They protect the bombers first, hunt for kills second. And when an aircraft sustains damage, the pilot disengages immediately. No exceptions. The statistics are absolute. A P-51 Mustang with battle damage has a 40% chance of making it home if the pilot turns back immediately. That percentage drops to 12% if he stays in the fight. And if the damage is catastrophic, loss of a wing section, control surface failure, structural compromise, the survival rate is 0. The pilot bails out or he dies trying to fly an unflyable aircraft. Intelligence officers track these numbers religiously. They brief them at every mission. They hammer them into replacement pilots fresh from stateside training. Your aircraft is a tool. When it breaks, you abandon it. Your life is worth more than the machine. This is not cowardice. This is mathematics. But mathematics assumes normal parameters. It assumes pilots respond to damage in predictable ways. It assumes control surfaces exist, that wings maintain their shape, that the center of gravity remains within tolerable limits. When those assumptions break, the math breaks. 2. The engineers at Wright Field and North American Aviation designed the P-51 with safety margins. Stress tolerances 50% above expected loads. Redundant control systems. Structural members sized for forces they would never encounter in normal flight. This over-engineering was intentional. Aircraft get shot. They hit turbulence. They pull emergency maneuvers. The margins kept pilots alive when single points of failure should have killed them. But no engineer designed for catastrophic asymmetric damage. No one calculated what happens when one wing loses 4 feet of structure and the other remains intact. No one tested whether opposite aileron and rudder could compensate for a center of lift shifted 3 feet to the left. The assumption was simple. That degree of damage equals bailout. The aircraft is unflyable. Do not attempt recovery. The assumption was wrong. It was not wrong in theory. It was wrong in practice. Because theory assumes pilots follow procedures. And procedures assume pilots think like pilots. But in March 1945, flying over Nuremberg in a Mustang with tail number 413298, there is a captain who does not think like a pilot. He thinks like an engineer, and when the flak shell tears through his wing, he does not reach for the bailout handle. He reaches for the trim wheel and starts calculating. His name is Merritt Caldwell. Captain, United States Army Air Forces, 357th Fighter Group. He does not look like a fighter pilot. Thin frame, 5 feet 11 inches, 160 pounds soaking wet. Wire-rimmed glasses that he swaps for goggles only when he climbs into the cockpit. Quiet voice. Midwestern accent flattened by years of technical education. He speaks in complete sentences, pauses to choose words, and rarely raises his volume. His crew chief calls him the professor. His squadron mates call him Cal. Some call him numbers behind his back, and not always kindly. Caldwell does not drink heavily. He does not play cards for money. He does not chase women in London on leave. While other pilots crowd into the officers' club and trade war stories, Caldwell sits in his quarters with technical manuals, maintenance logs, and after-action reports. He reads about metal fatigue and structural loading. He sketches diagrams of control surface geometry. He fills notebooks with calculations, fuel consumption rates, glide ratios, stall speeds at various weights and configurations. He is trying to understand his aircraft the way he once understood tractors and threshing machines. As a system, a collection of parts that follow physical laws. Predictable if you know the variables. This makes him strange. Fighter pilots are supposed to be instinctive. They react. They feel the aircraft. They trust their gut. Caldwell trusts mathematics. When he briefs his wingman before a mission, he does not say, "Watch my 6" or "Stay tight." He says if we maintain 280 indicated at 15,000 feet, our fuel consumption gives us 47 minutes over target with a 20-minute reserve. If we encounter fighters, a sustained turn at this altitude will bleed 15 knots per 360 degrees. Plan accordingly. It is not inspiring. It is accurate. Some pilots find it reassuring. Others find it unnerving. A few find it borderline insulting, as if Caldwell is suggesting they cannot fly without a calculus lecture. Caldwell does not fit the archetype. He is not cocky. He is not aggressive. He does not have a killer instinct. He has 7 confirmed victories, which is respectable but not remarkable. He earns them through patience and positioning, not through daring. He sets up attacks methodically. He fires in short, precise bursts. He does not chase damaged aircraft or take unnecessary risks. His gun camera footage is clinical. No wild maneuvering, no Hollywood moments, just geometry and trigonometry executed at 400 miles per hour. His commanding officer respects his competence but does not understand him. Caldwell volunteers for missions but never for glory. He flies his assignments without complaint but shows no particular enthusiasm. He is reliable, professional, and oddly detached. When other pilots talk about killing Germans, Caldwell talks about defeating systems. When others personalize the enemy, he depersonalizes the math. It is as if he is fighting a different war, a war of engineering problems and structural limits, a war where survival depends not on courage, but on correct calculations. And in 40 minutes, that perspective will be the only thing standing between him and 18,000 feet of empty air. Merritt Caldwell was born in 1919 in Kearney, Nebraska. His father ran a machine shop that serviced farm equipment. His mother taught grade school and played violin. The house smelled of cutting oil and sheet music. Dinner conversations revolved around crop yields and mechanical efficiency. Merritt learned early that precision mattered more than speed. His father would hand him a micrometer and a piece of machined steel and ask him to measure tolerances. If the reading was off by 0.02 of an inch, the part was scrap. No exceptions, no second chances. Machines do not forgive sloppiness. He attended Kearney High School. Not popular, not bullied, functionally invisible. He joined the math club and the mechanics club. He built a crystal radio set from salvaged parts. He repaired the school's film projector when the janitor gave up on it. Teachers described him as methodical. Classmates described him as quiet. He graduated in 1937 with grades good enough for university and no clear sense of what came next. The world was tilting toward war, but Nebraska felt far from Europe. Caldwell entered the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. He studied mechanical engineering, spent weekends in the library instead of at football games. Graduated in 1941 with decent grades and a degree that qualified him to design irrigation systems or build tractors. Then, Pearl Harbor happened. Caldwell enlisted in January 1942. He was too tall for ideal cockpit dimensions and too quiet for command consideration, but the Army Air Forces needed bodies. He passed flight training, not at the top of his class, not at the bottom. Instructors noted his technical aptitude but questioned his aggression. One evaluation called him hesitant under simulated combat stress. Another flagged him for overanalysis. He was assigned to bomber duty, then shuffled to fighters when the bomber pipeline backed up. Some pilots wore their reassignments like scars. Caldwell treated each one like a research opportunity. He studied how different aircraft handled. He noted what worked and what got people killed. He kept a notebook. His squadron mates noticed something strange. Caldwell never panicked. Even when an engine quit over the English Channel, even when flak tore a hole in his wing root, he would narrate the problem aloud clinically, like a surgeon calling out instruments. Oil pressure dropping, altitude loss at 150 feet per minute, trim compensating. It unnerved some men. It reassured others. There was no hysteria in his voice, just data. Caldwell also noticed things, small things. How German fighters always attacked from predictable angles. How flak patterns followed altitude and speed curves. How engine performance degraded in specific ways before failure. He began testing small variations, nothing dramatic, nothing that violated orders, just marginal adjustments, and his aircraft kept coming home. The statistics were subtle but real. Caldwell's missions had lower mechanical failure rates, fewer emergency landings, cleaner troubleshooting. Other pilots dismissed it as luck. Caldwell dismissed it as maintenance discipline. He did not boast. He kept refining. By March 1945, Caldwell had flown 87 combat missions. He was still a captain, still overlooked, still the professor, but his crew chief trusted him completely. And that trust would matter when 88mm shrapnel turned his Mustang into an aerodynamic impossibility. The problem facing late war fighter pilots is not just tactical, it is existential. By March 1945, the Luftwaffe has been bled white. Fuel shortages ground entire squadrons. Experienced pilots are dead or captured. Replacements arrive with 30 hours of flight time and no combat experience. The Americans have air superiority by every measurable metric, but desperation makes men dangerous. German pilots adopt tactics that Doctrine calls suicidal. They ram bombers, they dive through their own flak, they press head-on attacks until their guns run dry, then try to collide. Orders from high command are explicit. Stop the bombers. Use any means necessary. Death is acceptable. Failure is not. American Doctrine responds with cold logic. Maintain formation integrity. Protect the bombers. Engage only when advantageous. And when your aircraft sustains damage, disengage immediately. The manual is clear. A damaged fighter is a liability. It slows the formation. It attracts enemy attention. It reduces overall combat. Effectiveness. The pilot's duty is to return to base, transfer to a spare aircraft, and rejoin the fight. Heroics are not rewarded. They are discouraged. The war needs pilots alive, not dead in burning wreckage over Germany. But Caldwell sees something others miss. The P-51 Mustang is overbuilt. North American aviation designed it with safety margins that exceed normal operational requirements by 40%. Wing spars are thicker than necessary. Fuselage frames are reinforced beyond minimum specifications. Control surfaces have redundant attachment points. This is intentional engineering. Aircraft encounter forces beyond design parameters. Combat damage, extreme maneuvering, turbulence. The margins keep pilots alive when single failures occur. Caldwell studies accident reports in his spare time. He reads about structural failures, control malfunctions, emergency landings. He notes patterns. Most catastrophic failures occur when multiple systems fail simultaneously, but isolated. Damage, even severe damage, rarely causes immediate loss of aircraft. Pilots bail out because Doctrine tells them to, because they panic, because they do not understand what their aircraft can still do. He begins running calculations. If you lose 3 feet of right wing, the center of lift shifts left. The aircraft wants to roll right, but if you apply full left aileron and opposite rudder, you can compensate. The aircraft will not fly normally. It will be sluggish, unstable, difficult to control, but it will fly. The math works. On paper. Caldwell mentions this once during a briefing. His squadron leader listens politely, then dismisses it. Theoretical engineering does not apply in combat. Pilots under stress cannot calculate trim adjustments. The doctrine exists for good reason. When your aircraft is crippled, you bail out. End of discussion. Caldwell does not argue. He simply stops talking about it. But he does not stop thinking. He keeps his notebook current. He sketches control, surface diagrams. He calculates how much asymmetric damage different aircraft can tolerate before aerodynamic recovery becomes impossible. For the P-51, he estimates the threshold at 40% wing loss on one side. Beyond that, physics wins. Below that, mathematics might keep you alive. He files the calculations away and hopes he never needs to test them. In 20 minutes, over Nuremberg, he will discover whether his math is correct or whether it is just educated guessing by a man who thinks too much. Caldwell's research is not official. No squadron commander orders him to study asymmetric flight. No intelligence officer requests his analysis. He does it because he cannot stop thinking about the problem. Every time a pilot bails out of a damaged aircraft, Caldwell wonders if the aircraft was truly unflyable or if the pilot simply believed it was. The distinction matters. Doctrine conflates the two. It assumes that severe damage equals loss of control, but Caldwell knows the difference between structural failure and aerodynamic instability. One is fatal, the other is solvable. He starts with basic principles. An aircraft flies because lift exceeds weight and thrust exceeds drag. Control surfaces manipulate airflow to change direction. Stability comes from balanced forces around the center of gravity. When you damage one wing, you create imbalance. The damaged side produces less lift. The aircraft rolls toward the damage. Standard response is to counter with opposite aileron, but that assumes symmetric control authority. It assumes both ailerons work equally. In reality, damaged wings often lose aileron effectiveness. The control surface is gone or jammed or aerodynamically compromised. Caldwell realizes the solution is not ailerons, it is rudder and trim. The vertical stabilizer creates side force. If you apply aggressive rudder, you yaw the aircraft. Yaw creates a slip. Slip changes the effective angle of attack on each wing. Done correctly, you can use rudder-induced slip to compensate for lost lift on the damaged side. It is crude. It is inefficient. But it works mathematically. He tests the theory on paper. He models different damage scenarios. 2 feet of wing loss, 3 feet, 4 feet. He calculates required rudder deflection, trim settings, airspeed margins. The numbers are brutal. To compensate for 4 feet of missing wing, you need full rudder deflection and maximum opposite trim. Airspeed must remain above 200 miles per hour or the aircraft stalls. Turn radius increases by 300%. Rate of climb becomes rate of descent. You cannot dogfight. You cannot climb. You can barely maneuver, but you can maintain controlled flight. Barely. Caldwell considers sharing his findings with higher command. He drafts a memo. He includes diagrams and calculations. Then he stops. Who would believe him? He has no test data, no flight experience with catastrophic damage, just math on paper. They would file it under interesting but impractical, or worse, they would ground him for suggesting pilots attempt recovery maneuvers. Doctrine explicitly forbids. So he keeps the notebook private. He reviews it before missions. He mentally rehearses the steps. If I lose the right wing, I apply left rudder, add nose-up trim, maintain airspeed above 200. If I lose the left wing, reverse the inputs. It becomes a ritual, a checklist he hopes never to use. Other pilots notice his odd pre-flight routine. They see him sitting in the cockpit, eyes closed, hands moving through invisible procedures. Some think he is praying. Others think he is running through emergency checklists. Both are partially correct. Caldwell is preparing for a scenario Doctrine says is unsurvivable. He is calculating how to fly an aircraft the manual says cannot fly. And in 15 minutes, when 88mm flak shreds his starboard wing, every calculation will be tested. Every assumption will face reality. And the difference between theoretical engineering and applied physics will be measured in seconds. March 17, 1945. The briefing is routine. Escort B-17s to Nuremberg. Bomb run targets, rail yards, and industrial facilities. Heavy flak expected. Moderate fighter opposition. Weather clear. Expected duration 4 hours. Questions? None. The pilots file out. Caldwell walks to his aircraft. Tail number 413298. He performs his pre-flight, checks control surfaces, inspects skin panels, verifies fuel load. His crew chief hands him his parachute and helmet. Caldwell climbs into the cockpit, straps in, runs through startup procedures. The Packard Merlin engine coughs, catches, roars. Oil pressure rises. Temperatures stabilize. He taxis to the runway. Takeoff at 0820 hours. The formation climbs through scattered clouds. Caldwell settles into position, 500 feet behind and to the right of his flight leader. The channel passes below. gray and cold. France scrolls past, patchwork fields and ruined villages. The bomber stream is visible ahead, a long procession of B-17s stacked in combat boxes. The Mustangs weave above them, silver streaks against blue sky. Radio chatter is sparse, professional. The mission proceeds normally until they cross into Germany. The flak starts at the border, black bursts appearing in clusters, staining the sky with smoke and shrapnel. The bombers hold formation. The fighters climb higher above the flak ceiling, but someone's calculations are wrong today. The German A8mm guns are firing higher than intelligence predicted. Bursts appear at 18,000 feet, then 19,000, then at Caldwell's altitude. He hears shrapnel pinging off his fuselage. Small hits, harmless. The formation continues. Over Nuremberg, the flak intensifies. The sky turns black with explosions. Caldwell tightens his turn, staying close to his leader. Below, the bombers begin their run. Bomb bay doors open. The aircraft steady up on their final heading. This is when they are most vulnerable, locked on course, unable to maneuver, absorbing whatever the guns throw at them. The fighters orbit overhead, watching for enemy aircraft, waiting for the bombers to finish. Then Caldwell's world explodes. The burst is close, maybe 50 feet to his right. He feels the concussion through the airframe, hears metal tearing. The stick lurches in his hand. The aircraft snaps right, rolling violently. Alarms scream, red lights flash, hydraulic pressure 0, oil pressure falling. And when Caldwell looks right, he sees sky where his wing should be. 4 feet of structure simply gone. Torn metal trailing fuel and hydraulic fluid. The jagged edge fluttering in the slipstream. Every instinct screams bail out. The aircraft is dying. Physics says this is unrecoverable. Doctrine says eject now, before you lose altitude, before the spin becomes uncontrollable, before you are too low for the parachute to deploy. Caldwell's hand moves toward the canopy release, then stops. His mind shifts from pilot to engineer. He looks at the instruments. Airspeed 280, altitude 18,500, engine still running, controls still connected. The aircraft wants to roll right. He applies left aileron. Not enough. Full left aileron, still rolling. He adds left rudder. The roll slows. He cranks in nose-up trim, maximum deflection. The roll stops. The aircraft is flying, barely, shuddering, wallowing, unstable, but flying. Caldwell adjusts his grip on the stick, relaxes his death grip, breathes, looks around, and sees 4 FW-190s diving toward him from 2 o'clock high. They see a crippled Mustang. Easy meet. They have no idea what is about to happen. The lead FW-190 commits first. Standard attack, diving from high right, closing at 450 miles per hour. Caldwell watches him come. His Mustang will not turn normally. The damaged wing creates massive drag. The aircraft wants to snap right with any aggressive input, but Caldwell understands something the German does not. Asymmetric flight creates asymmetric options. He waits until the FW-190 is 400 yards out, then yanks the stick, hard left. The Mustang does not turn gracefully. It skids, yaws, and drops 200 feet in a violent, uncommanded roll. The German's firing solution evaporates. His tracers pass through empty air. He overshoots, pulls up, circles back. The second FW-190 attacks from the left, trying to exploit the damaged right side. Caldwell cannot turn right. The missing wing makes it impossible, so he does not try. He reverses left, adding power, forcing the aircraft into a shuddering bank. The German expects a gentle turn. He gets a falling, skidding slide that destroys his deflection estimate. He fires anyway. Misses, breaks off. Caldwell levels out, fighting to keep altitude. The third and fourth FW-190 circle, assessing. They see the damage now. They see the fuel streaming from the torn wing. They know he cannot last. They coordinate their attack. Caldwell checks his ammunition. 400 rounds remaining across all 6 guns. He adjusts his grip. The stick vibrates constantly. The aircraft feels like it is trying to shake itself apart. He reduces power slightly. The vibration decreases. He notes this, files it away. The two FW-190s attack together, one high, one low. Caldwell waits. His aircraft cannot maneuver quickly, but it can maneuver unpredictably. At the last second, he chops power and applies full rudder. The Mustang yaws violently left, nose dropping. The high attacker overshoots. The low attacker finds himself suddenly co-altitude with Caldwell, closing head-on at combined speed exceeding 600 miles per hour. Caldwell fires, 2-second burst. His tracers converge on the FW-190's engine cowling. Smoke erupts. The German brakes hard right, trailing fire. Caldwell does not follow, cannot follow. He levels out, adding power, regaining lost altitude. The remaining three FW-190s regroup. They are cautious now, confused. The Mustang should be helpless, should be an easy kill. But every attack fails. The aircraft moves wrong, reacts wrong, positions itself in places it should not be. Able to reach. The Germans try again. This time, Caldwell is ready. He baits the attack, presents his damaged right side as a target. The lead FW-190 takes it, diving from 4 o'clock. Caldwell counts down, 3 seconds, 2, 1. He applies full left rudder and nose-down trim simultaneously. The Mustang snap rolls left and drops 300 feet. The German overshoots again, but this time he is slower, closer. Caldwell pulls the trigger. Long burst. The FW-190 staggers. Its canopy shatters. It rolls inverted and dives, trailing smoke and pieces. 2 down. Caldwell's fuel state is critical. The torn wing is hemorrhaging fuel. He estimates 10 minutes remaining, maybe less. The remaining 2 FW-190s break off. They are low on ammunition, low on fuel, and thoroughly confused. The crippled Mustang has killed 2 of their flight. Doctrine says it should be dead. Reality says otherwise. They climb away, disappearing into the haze over Nuremberg. Caldwell does not chase. He cannot chase. His aircraft is barely controllable. Fuel streaming from the torn wing root. Hydraulics completely failed. Oil pressure dropping. He points the nose west and starts the long limp home. The radio erupts. American pilots calling out his tail number, asking if he is okay, telling him to bail out. The bomber crews report what they saw. Gun camera footage will confirm it later. A P-51 with half a wing missing, fighting 4 Germans, killing 2. Impossible, but witnessed by 300 men. Caldwell ignores the chatter. He is calculating. Fuel consumption at current power setting gives him 12 minutes. Distance to friendly lines, 40 miles. Ground speed 220 miles per hour. He will not make it to England. He will be lucky to make it across the Rhine. He calls his base, requests emergency landing clearance at the nearest field. The controller vectors him to a forward airstrip near Aachen, runway 4,000 feet, barely adequate for a healthy aircraft, suicidal for a crippled one. Caldwell acknowledges he has no choice. The fuel gauge reads empty. The engine coughs once, twice. He switches tanks, buys another 3 minutes. The Rhine passes below. Allied territory, he drops to 3,000 feet, then 2,000. The engine coughs again. This time it does not recover. The propeller windmills, useless. Silence except for wind noise. Caldwell spots the airstrip. 8 miles ahead, he has altitude but no power. He calculates glide ratio, current weight, current configuration, damaged wing, creating additional drag. He will arrive 200 feet low, not enough. He looks for alternatives, a field, a road, anything flat, nothing adequate. He commits to the runway, adjusts trim for best glide speed. The Mustang descends in an unstable, shuddering glide. Ground crews scatter as he approaches. They expect a crash. Fire trucks position along the runway. Caldwell crosses the threshold at 180 miles per hour, too fast. But he cannot slow down or the aircraft stalls. He uses his good left wing to flare, keeping the damaged right side high. The left main gear touches first, then the right. The aircraft skips, bounces, settles. No brakes, no hydraulics. He cranks the tail wheel lock. The Mustang skids, fishtails, throws up dirt and grass. It slides sideways off the runway, plows through 50 yards of mud, and stops. Silence. Caldwell sits in the cockpit, hands still gripping the stick. Ground crews run toward him. He releases his harness, pops the canopy, climbs out. His legs barely hold him. A medic asks if he is injured. Caldwell shakes his head. He is fine. The aircraft is scrap. The gun camera footage will change everything. Intelligence officers develop the film within hours. They watch the footage 3 times. Gun camera shows the flak burst, shows the wing disintegrating, shows Caldwell fighting the roll, leveling out, engaging 4 FW-190s, shows 2 kills. The footage is impossible. The aircraft should have crashed, but it is there on film, undeniable. The officers request a full debrief. Caldwell walks them through it. The trim settings, the rudder inputs, the airspeed margins. He shows them his notebook, the calculations he has been running for months, the theoretical framework for asymmetric flight recovery. They listen in silence. Within a week, Caldwell is grounded, not as punishment. As a resource, he is transferred to Wright Field in Ohio. Assigned to the Flight Test Division, his job is to teach engineers what he learned over Nuremberg, how to fly aircraft the manuals say cannot fly. He spends the rest of the war in test aircraft, deliberately inducing asymmetric damage, documenting recovery procedures. His research becomes classified. After the war, it is declassified and integrated into pilot training, emergency procedures for catastrophic damage, how to recognize recoverable versus unrecoverable scenarios, when to bail out and when to fight for control. Caldwell receives the Distinguished Service Cross. The citation mentions exceptional airmanship and gallantry in combat. It does not mention the calculations. It does not mention the months of private research. It does not mention that he proved Doctrine wrong through mathematics and courage combined. He does not seek publicity. He continues working as a test pilot, then as an aeronautical engineer. He never flies combat again. The P-51 with tail number 413298 is scrapped. Too damaged to repair. But before it is cut apart, engineers swarm over it. They measure the torn wing, photograph the damage, calculate the aerodynamical forces Caldwell compensated for. The numbers are staggering. He flew an aircraft generating 40% asymmetric lift at 18,000 feet for 30 minutes. Physics says it should have been impossible. The data says otherwise. Caldwell's name appears in technical journals, in flight test reports, in accident investigation procedures. But it fades from popular memory. There is no medal ceremony, no press coverage. The war ends. He returns to civilian life. He works for Boeing, designing structural systems. He marries, raises children, retires quietly. He dies in 1989 at age 70. His obituary mentions his wartime service. It does not mention Nuremberg, but in flight schools today, instructors still teach asymmetric flight recovery. The principles Caldwell proved, that catastrophic damage is not always fatal, that mathematics and understanding can compensate for lost structure, that survival sometimes requires doing what Doctrine forbids. His name is forgotten. His calculations endure, the legacy of a man who flew an unflyable aircraft and lived to explain how.